Hi, guys. Let's go over chapter 4 Settlement and Conflict. After the Cherokee War ended, Henderson wanted to know more about the land he had gained, so he hired James Robertson and a team of 8 men to survey it. Um, Robertson suggested that the area be called Cumberland, and later became Nashville. Robertson and another surveyor, John Donaldson, worked out a plan to move settlers to the region. Robertson and a large group of mostly men planned to walk or ride there on horseback. Over on TN 43 under Overland Journey. In October, Robertson's group left their Watauga homes and began walking towards the French Lick. Jumping down to through the Cumberland Gap, the Robertson party went up through the Cumberland Gap and then over the Cumberland Road, which is now considered Kentucky. Let's turn the page. Traveling by water, page TN 44. Donaldson was in charge of building 30 flatboats to carry women and children to the new settlement. Building the boat took much longer than anyone expected. The winters arrived, and that caused the river to freeze. So the group had to wait until the middle of February because of the frozen water to leave. It was another month before they reached the mouth of the Holston River and headed down the Tennessee River. A deadly trip. The journey by boat turned out to be very dangerous, and this is because the boats were so big and hard to steer, and they were very easy for the Indians to see. After the group had been on the river for a few days, one woman had a baby, and not long after that, the Indians attacked the boat and the baby fell overboard and drowned. TN 45, the travelers arrived. The travelers finally reached the Ohio River in late April. TN 46, the Cumberland Compact. Richard Henderson arrived in the Cumberland settlements from Kentucky about the same time as the flatboats. Henderson wrote a document called the Cumberland Compact. It created a government for the settlement, such as it provided them with a clerk to record property and judges to settle arguments. Fort Nash Borough. Henderson wanted one of the stations on the French Lick to be named in honor of General Francis Nash of North Carolina. Nash had been the clerk of the court where Henderson served as a judge. He also served with James Robertson at the Battle of Almanace. Soon, the name of the Cumberland settlements changed from Nash Borough to Nashville. Let's jump on over to TN 48, the Battle of the Bluffs. The arrival of the settlers in the Cumberland region angered local Indians. The tribes used the land for hunting. Having people settle there would drive the animals away, and some of the Indians had not forgotten dragging canoes threat. New settlers were different from the trappers who had come earlier. Those people cleared the land, built cabins, and seemed to be there to stay. The Indians began to attack the settlements almost immediately, and this became the Battle of the Bluffs. Later on, after the Indians were defeated in the Battle of the Bluffs, they were made to sign a treaty. The treaty did not end the conflict, however, it continued for another 10 years. Page TN 49, the Tennessee in the Revolution. Major Patrick Ferguson, one of the British Army's best soldiers, chased the Patriots as far as the mountains. As he and his men traveled, they told settlers the war was over, but this was not true. But people, including those in Watauga, did not know what to believe. They thought Ferguson might be lying, so they refused to surrender. The over mountain men. Instead of waiting for Ferguson and his troops to cross the mountains and attack them, a small group of local militia leaders decided it would be better to attack first. Isaac Shelby, a commander in the North Carolina militia, made plans with John Sevier and William Campbell. Sevier and Campbell both lived in the Watauga settlement and were militia leaders. Together, they organized a large group of volunteer militia and from the surrounding areas to fight the British. They called themselves the Over Mountain Men. TN 50, preparing for battle. The Over Mountain men and their families began preparing for battle. They sent express riders to gather more volunteers. By the time they were done, they had found nearly 1,000 volunteers. Many of these people came from Virginia, North Carolina, as well as places in Tennessee and Kentucky to defend their land. Women also wanted to help with this preparation. A woman named Mary McKeon Patron knew how to make gunpowder. So what she did was she helped the Over Mountain men um, have a lot of gunpowder powder to fight the British. So she made more than 500 pounds of gunpowder. Moving over to TN 51, the Battle of the King's Mountain. In September of 1780, the Over Mountain men began to trek over the mountain in search of Ferguson and his men. They found more than 1,000 British soldiers, on King's Mountain. This was a narrow ridge in South Carolina. Ferguson was sure his troops could defend their position against this raggedy army. So what they did was they continued over the mountain. Ferguson was mistaken. The Over Mountain patriots climbed the ridge. They hid behind trees, logs, and rocks. They tried to move up the mountain 3 times, but each time the British pushed them back. Each time the patriots recovered and tried again. Finally, victory. The overcome of the Battle of Kings Mountain surprised many people. As the patriots celebrated, Southern loyalists, grew discouraged. The victory was a turning point in the South because it helped the patriots believe they could win the war. Severe attacks. While the Over Mountain men were fighting at Kings Mountain, the British urged the Cherokees to attack the Watauga settlements. Once again, Nancy Ward warned the people in Watauga of the plan for attack. By then, the Over Mountain men had returned home. John Sevier decided to attack the Cherokees first, just as he and his men had done to the British. All right, guys, that's all for now.